Well, hello everybody. This is Dr. Lynn with Wild and Precious Optimal Living Show. And today I'm going solo with Dr. Sam out of town. And I'm excited because today we get to go one-on-one. I get to go one-on-one with the Miss Special, Valerie Recore of Home Most Simple. And she is a productivity specialist, and I'm super excited to have her on. For those of you who are new to tuning into our show, we are about talking about all things that helps to increase resilience for the brain, the body, and emotional health, especially for moms and kids. And why this is a show about that is because Dr. Sam and I are living it. So, we want to be able to share what works for us, and also we want to be able to learn from someone like Valerie, who has so much professional experience and personal experience, and I'm super excited to have her on the show for that. And so a little bit more about Valerie. She's, like I mentioned before, a productivity coach, a time giver, and a decision maker. She works with overwhelmed and overcommitted women, say me, and with a background in mental health and corporate training, she's ready to guide you toward a better relationship with time. Valerie, if you can share a little bit more about yourself with us, if I've missed anything, please share.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very excited to be here today. I have two children, two girls. One is almost 8 and one is 5, so we are in the thick of it here. I'm a Denver native, which is rare and these days, so grew up here in Denver, and I'm excited to be here today. So thanks for that introduction.
Absolutely. And I feel like this is such a timely subject for us, as I think we're all hitting fall break for different schools, and at the same time, it's a really great time for parents to just look back in the last couple months to see where are we at, how are we doing, and how can we reset ourselves and shift some things around. So this is a really great time to be able to reflect, and when fall break is over, how do we continue that rhythm if we're not already in it, right? Something to share for mindset of the day is, this past week I learned from one of my clients who I coach, and he was talking about doom scrolling, and one of his things is he's really great about putting together his to-do lists, and then before he knows it, instead of actually marking the things off his to-do list, his go-to is just doom scrolling. And I literally had to I had to look it up and learn, what is doom scrolling? Have you heard of it, Valerie?
I feel like I've heard the term before, but I'm curious kind of what the internet says, what the definition of that is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had to go to Dr. Google and ask. So doom scrolling is actually a new term to describe people who generally are reading the news, and one article after another, and it's negative news on top of negative news, and it just builds on, and somehow we just get locked into it. And so, you're scrolling through Facebook and looking at people's comments, scrolling through Twitter, scrolling through the news, different news outlets. I think that's what doom scrolling is. And so I definitely am familiar with scrolling. I'm not necessarily doom scrolling, but I definitely scroll. And I catch myself, and it's definitely a practice. And I can understand with the political charge right now that, people are wanting to keep up with the news, but how much is too much, right? And so what's your thought on that, Valerie?
Yeah, it's so hard. It's hard. I've been there too. I will sit and play on Facebook or Instagram, especially when I'm really tired and just not quite motivated to get on with whatever it is I need to be focused. I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I get that. And I think some things to be done would be setting a timer. So I'm going to sit here and read the news for 15 minutes, and when that timer goes off, it's time to move on. I start my day with the comics and a cup of coffee, and so if the only part of the paper I read is the comics, I feel like all is okay with the world. I usually don't make it far beyond that. Sometimes I try to come back. I mean, we all want to keep up with things, but at the same time, it does such a mental it's hard on our brain and our hearts and our emotions. And
Yeah.
When I saw that we were going to talk about this today, I looked up or pulled together a list of apps that you can use to block some websites and some of that stuff to prevent you from that. Or keep you in line. And so there are tons of apps out there that will help you. You can set them for websites. One will work on like your computer and your iPad and your phone, so you can't just set it on your phone or on your computer and then walk over to your phone and start playing on Facebook and kind of cheat the system.
Yeah.
So that could be helpful. So using an app to just shut some of that down so that you can focus on your work.
I think that's
and just knowing when to walk away. I think it's hard. We get sucked into it, and
yeah. I think there are apps out there that are to our benefit to help to be constructive, and then there are apps out there definitely that are more destructive. So you pointing out the fact that there's apps out there, just being mindful of what tools we can utilize, right? And using it in consistency as long as you're comfortable with it, because I know that there's a ton of apps and you don't want to over bombard, but absolutely.
Right.
So when you can, Valerie, after the show we'll be sure to post all these resources that you just mentioned as well too. That'll be fantastic. And so she will be posting, I will be sharing the show on Valerie's Facebook page too, so be sure to follow her on her Facebook page. So another thing that we wanted, to add on to doom scrolling too is, like you said, Valerie, to be being able to time yourself, right? And I think that it's phenomenal, and filtering out what you choose to focus on in the morning. And I remember listening to a talk by this brain professional, John Quick, who talks about the first thing in the morning is just focusing on him, because it takes so much energy to exert out, and so being very mindful of where we're putting our energy into. And so something else that I go to, and I know that my husband goes to, is listening to positive, uplifting podcasts or audiobooks too, that changes your environment. Like, I could be rushing around, but it's always nice to actually listen to someone like Tony Robbins. I've been listening to Unleash Your Power, and it's been really cool because it's like, I might not necessarily integrate everything right away, but it also shifts my mind, and then it allows me to focus on what's important even during the day, being more mindful about scrolling on anything. And I think that that's important. So what you listen to, what you feed your body, through the ears, through the mouth, through the eyes, is just important. So
important. Yeah. And trying not to, and I'm working on this too, is not checking email first thing.
Oh man.
I might just stay off of it, because you don't. Just give yourself that time to follow some of those other things, to get up and eat a good breakfast and prepare yourself. Then you can get to your email, and
absolutely,
that can be helpful.
Yep, that's true. You make a great point there. Great. Well, I want to be able to give a shout out before we move into our major topics of the day. There's different moms that have chimed in. I'm super excited. Both Valerie and I are super excited because we surveyed a number of moms that gave us some input, and I'm sure with our own personal experiences too. And I'm super excited to have Valerie kind of guide us through this as well. I wanted to let you know, though, for my listeners, that this show is brought to you by Shed Light Group, the Shed Light Lasers Group. So this is with Dr. Damian Griswold and Dr. Brandon Crawford. Big thanks to these docs and for their guidance in the things that we're doing in the office, where we're using the laser to actually help to increase the brain function of our practice members. We work with kids from age 2 all the way up to, we have practice members as old as in their 60s. And so it's amazing in what we're seeing with the laser, but it's not something that's just clinical. It's also something that you can utilize in your home. Just the other night, for instance, my son has been having growing pains, and he wakes up and his little legs are just like, I'm in pain, and he hasn't been sleeping well through the night. And it's funny because now he's 3 years old, but we've used it on enough, the laser enough on him, that he's like, can you get the laser and help me? Like, just, it helps to relieve pain. And so, for that night, in the middle of the night, he's like, my leg's in pain, can you get the laser? And so I actually grabbed the laser and helped to just turn on the setting. There's a pain setting, so it's a pain frequency that the laser carries and the light form, and the light is very healing in a sense. It helps to generate more mitochondrial production, ATP production for healing, and that's with the light, and itself with the specific frequency of pain that was really supportive for him. He actually was able to sleep through the night. I fell asleep with the laser in my hand. I was able to fortunately turn it off, but we were really tired. So just an example about that. There's nights when he has trouble sleeping. We have a sleep frequency on it that matches that of the theta waves, delta waves, and we use it on our son. And the laser is just amazing. And so if you'd like more information, feel free to search the Shed Light group or to send us a quick private message. We're happy to share more about our experiences and what the Shed Light laser can do for you. So now we get to a fun portion of our show, and really there's 3 types of moms that you may fit all 3 of them. And it's not just for moms, right? Dads, if you're listening, you're probably thinking, that's me too. So there's 3 types of moms that we kind of put together, put under, and there's all these different stories behind it, but 3 types of moms that we're going to talk about today. The mom who carries the whole world, and then the mom who plans the greatest to-do list, but doesn't even know where to go or where to get started. Or we might not even get anything done. We just plan the list and there we go. And then the mom who can't even fit in the self-care. Now, I will admit that I'm all 3 of those. So I'm working on it. It's getting better. So let's talk about the mom who carries the world. And I want to put a few voices in here under this category. So moms, listen in. You know, if this is you, raise your hand. I feel like society relies on moms to do 90% of the work. Provide the child care, be the teacher, take care of all the housework, plan the calendars, and have a career. How do I stop this pattern? And I'm a mom who worries about losing my job because of my lack of productivity. So it sounds like these are moms that, you know, that has to keep everything together, the glue of everything. And we hear that. It's like, oh, she's the glue of the family. This family wouldn't function without her. So, Valerie, what are your thoughts on moms who feel like they have to carry the whole world?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics, and I am actually on a mission this year and going forward to shift some of this thinking, especially for moms. So I do, on one hand, I think society is totally set up this way. We are just expected to do all of this. And I sometimes wonder, on the flip side of that, I wonder if we do this to ourselves a little bit. We kind of bring it on ourselves. So a couple of quick examples here. Back in college, I had a college roommate who would re-clean the bathroom because he did not think that I did it well enough or my other roommate did it well enough. So I quit cleaning the bathroom because there was no point in me doing this work if somebody was going to redo it.
Right.
And I wonder if sometimes as women and as moms, we kind of bring that upon ourselves. So somebody doesn't load the dishwasher correctly or the way we think that it should be done, so we redo it, and then that person stops doing it because I certainly am not going to load the dishwasher if somebody else is just going to redo my work. So that's one piece of it, is just letting others help you. So walking into the kitchen and maybe your partner's loaded the dishwasher and put dinner away, but they haven't wiped the counter down. So instead of grumbling and like, oh, he can't do anything right, it's awesome. Now I just need to wipe down the counters. So same amount of work, kind of a different focus. If it really is something that bugs you, maybe having a conversation about it. Hey, I really think we can fit more dishes in the dishwasher. Or do you mind wiping the counters down when you're done? So it's letting others, and this goes for our kids too, is teaching them how to clean. Like my kids certainly do not clean the way that I would like them to, but the point is that we're getting them to do it. So we've started making them sweep up the floors after dinner because they just eat like squirrels and there's food everywhere at the end of the day. And so we just
I thought 3 years, I'm like, maybe I'm not teaching my kid how to eat well because he's
No, we've just given up. And so I decided, okay, fine, I'm not going to nag you on how you eat, but at the end of the day, you have to clean up the floor. And they don't do a fabulous job, but they do it. And so it's kind of one less thing I need to worry about. So some of that is, so part of where I'm going with that is I think we need to be okay with asking for help and letting others help us and accepting that they might do it differently than we do.
Yeah.
And that that's okay. And that we're modeling for our kids that everybody in the household is doing something around the house. We're all pitching in and just being okay with that. Now, if there's something that you were very particular about, by all means, take it on and do that, but know that that's on you versus getting mad because somebody else isn't doing that right. I think another part of that too is, especially during this pandemic, is shifting our standards to how we might be functioning. So I would certainly love my house to be cleaner and more organized than it really is, but there are 4 of us who are here all the time, and it's not going to happen. And we can spend our weekends cleaning the house and organizing it, or we can spend some of our weekends relaxing and just recharging and getting ready for the week. And it's just really reading the energy levels in your house and how that's working, kind of what is going on there. I have more. Do you have any questions? I'm full of ideas on this topic.
I think that's awesome. And to make clear for our audience, and there's probably a lot of different parents from different camps. Like Valerie, you were just saying that your family stays home. You're homeschooling. You're both, you and your husband work from home, and Sam and I are on the opposite spectrum. We're out and about, and our son goes to school half day, and we take turns picking our kid up, and we run a practice. So we're being home is a luxury.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think I really love the part where you talk about doing it differently. I have noticed at times that my husband may load the dishes, definitely loads the dishes differently. Like I would put bowls at the top if it's smaller, but he puts bowls at the bottom because it's porcelain and something like that. And we have different opinions, and we still haven't had time to maybe talk about it. But for me, I noticed that little annoyance of like, oh, there he goes again, and then I have to move the bowls or something. But it's that also that thought of that practice of I'm not attached to this. There's more things that is so important, and being able to catch myself, and also even if you do grumble, like taking the time. I think Sam and I have been like this morning before. After he was brushing his teeth, because I did last night. I was like, I wasn't so happy. I was tired and I was grumpy, and I went to bed grumpy. But this morning I told him I really appreciate all that you do. Like I really appreciate that you just take the time to take care of this house and cook dinner and everything. And so even just praising is a really great way to encourage family members to say, you guys are so awesome, and then there's that affirmation of like, I'm so glad I don't have to worry about this because I know you got this. So the communication is so key in between all the things that we're doing.
Yes, absolutely. I fully support that, and I think that is great. And so yes, our kids we're doing remote learning, and I try to make a big distinction between homeschooling and remote learning because I think they're very, very different things.
Yeah.
But I think the point of some of this is really that communication piece of it, and that acceptance of an appreciation of what the other person is doing. And one of the things that my family did early on, and I highly recommend this whether we're in the middle of a pandemic or not, are regular family meetings. And so I sat down with a bunch of index cards, and family meetings can cover a bunch of different things, from activities for the week or the weekend. We cover what's one fun thing that you want to do this weekend, so everybody gets a say. My husband bought an ice cream maker earlier this summer, and so that's pretty much all my kids want to do all weekend is eat ice cream. That's usually what they go with. Can we maybe play a family game or do something else? But so everybody gets a say in something fun that we do. We talk about what went well or didn't go well over the last week. What can we do differently? And then one of the things that I did early on was sat down with a stack of index cards And I wrote on each one a different household task. So dust, and I think I was specific on just what exactly. Wipe down the kitchen counters, sweep the floors, mop the floors, put away toys, multiple steps of laundry. And we sat down as a family and like, all right, this weekend, these are the tasks that need to be done. Who's going to do them? I know my 5-year-old is not going to clean the kitchen counters, so maybe she can dust, or everybody helps pick up toys. And what I liked about that was it was a visual representation of all the tasks that need to be done around the house. And they're going to be different. Your 3-year-old is probably not, he might be certainly happy to help you dust. And no, he's not going to do it as well as you might wish that he did, but he's participating, if you will. And then we'll make house cleaning fun as much as it can be. So we'll turn on some fun music, or put on an Audible book, or do something, and work together to get it done. And the weekends that my kids have not helped, they complain that it took my husband and me all day long to do it. Like, well, you needed to jump in and help here. But I think the index cards can be used for a variety of things. But I think household tasks, they help just visualize everything that needs to happen around the house. And then you can sit down in a family meeting that is hopefully not just business. Throw something fun in there, maybe end it with a family game or a family movie or a dance party or something. And but it just gives everybody a sense of, oh yeah, these are the things that happen. And that's one thing that I've loved about, as much as we can love this pandemic, just being able to share that example with my kids. They get to see what goes into keeping the house functioning.
Okay, so as you can tell,
my
3-year-old might join us today. It's as you can tell, my husband's traveling, so I'm totally.
This is what we are.
This is the mom who carries the world today. I'm living it. Oh God, real good.
Yeah.
So as we're talking about this right now, another thing I wanted to. Coming back to what you're talking about with the index cards is about delegation, right? So being able to delegate, being able to, I think, being able to say, hey, I really need help with this, and really just leading my husband. Oftentimes he's like, you don't even voice yourself, like you just do everything, and then all of a sudden you get angry at me. And I don't know if a lot of people out there can relate, where moms are, dads can relate. So it's just, I do that, and I have to be so mindful about catching myself, and because I do often think, I'm like, if it's not going to be done right if I don't do it, and it's a big thing to let go. And a coach recently reminded me that it's just like, you have to learn to trust that your husband can do the work, or your partner can do the work, and let him do it, because it's also empowering for them. And that was really a good reminder for me of saying, yeah, my partner needs to be empowered too, and to feel like, oh, he's helping, he's loving, and he's helping his family, his wife in some way, and it's his way to show love. And I thought that was really cool tip as well too. Do you have anything to say about that too? About voicing about, or because as moms, it's maybe even the mindset of saying, I have to take care of everything, and maybe it's not even society. It could be something we've been grown up with to believe, because we see it in our own families. So how do we break that pattern?
Yeah, absolutely. At first, I think it's being aware of it is a good place to start. If we know that. I often will think that I've told my husband something, and then I apparently didn't. I forget that people don't live in my head. Yeah. And so that they don't always know what's going on.
Right. You should be thinking I know what I'm thinking.
I know, how did you not know that I've been thinking that all week? And so I think when it's being aware of it, and I think you were spot on with it. Some of it is just, we just grew up with this idea that we're supposed to do it all and to not ask for help. And I think it's important to just have regular conversations with your partner, and about how things are going. And maybe it's once a week, maybe it's part of your family meeting, maybe it's an evening that it's just the two of you, maybe kind of a scheduled date night, if you will, where you're just going to sit, and first things you're going to do is just sit down and talk about some of this stuff. And hey, I So early on, as for an example, I took, because my job is more flexible than my husband's. When our kids started back remote learning, like, all right, I got this. Like, I'm gonna work when they're in school, and we're gonna just do this. And a few weeks in, I was like, I cannot keep this up, and I cannot be everything for my kids and get them to do their schoolwork. Or I was ignoring helping them, or encouraging them, I should say, to do their schoolwork and work at the same time, and then keep the house remotely functioning. And so it's just sitting down with, like, I cannot do this, I need help. And then figuring out what that means. And so for, like, you and your husband, people who work outside of the home, that's gonna be, who's working, the details of who's picking up the kids, and who's cleaning the house, and when, and what dinner is gonna look like, and who gets a night off. Maybe it's I know people who once a month they each get just a full night off, where they don't have to deal with the kids, they don't have to clean the kitchen, they just get the night off, whatever that looks like. And I think communication is the biggest piece of that, and remembering to have those conversations. And even if you have to schedule them, I know it doesn't sound like fun or romantic or whatever you need, but I think that there's something to that, and just being able to sit down and have those conversations. And I often will have a Post-it note full of things I need to, I love my Post-it notes, and so I always have a list of things I need to talk to my husband about. It's like, all right, I need your help with this, or we need to figure out something for this event, or what have you. And just remembering, just talking about it, I think is the biggest. And being okay with asking for help.
Yeah.
Just knowing that there's nothing wrong with that we really should be, we cannot do this alone.
Right, absolutely.
Because of that.
Yeah. You use Post-it notes, and what I like to do is text my husband. So if I think of something that we have to talk about that we can't talk about at the moment, so I'll be like, remind me to talk about this.
And then does he? Will he remember?
Yeah,
does
he
it come
will.
back to
He
you?
will. Yeah.
Okay.
Or like, don't let me go to bed before I get this done, or something like that. And he'll be my accountability partner in that sense. And
I think that's great.
Yeah. And so I think, during COVID, one thing that Sam and I have really learned to do, and I encourage other families to do too, is recognize each other's strengths and weaknesses. And that has helped, because in the past, we would just get into each other's faces, because we'd be trying to do the same thing but different ways, and I dread something but he may be better at it. And just, I think there's humility in being able to say, I'm not really good at this at all. Like my husband's really great at the budgeting, the money management, and just to trust that, say, hey, you do all the calculations and just let us know where we're at. And there's a lot of trust in that too. And we can still have conversations, but knowing that he's got that and I don't have to worry about it is really great. And then and the other aspect, like if we're running a business together, which we are, Sam's really great about saying, I know that you're really great at organizing events, or you're really great at going out and engaging with people, so you get that, and then I can do this while you're doing that. So there's this recognizing who can do what, and who can be really good at it, and actually feel good doing it, have fun doing it. And it makes it much more appreciative. So there's qualities that you're talking about in here that you're pointing out. So biggest thing is communication, right? And and really being able to have the ability to voice our needs is really, it sounds like too, and that's vulnerable to do.
It is, yeah.
So,
it's hard.
Yeah.
But I think it's necessary, and it's something we need to practice, and we'll get better at it. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm excited about that. So hopefully moms, do you have anything to add about, for moms who carries the world, anything else that you'd like to add before we move into our next mom avatar?
No, I think we've covered it. I think it's just being vulnerable and asking for help, and knowing that we don't need to do it all, and then just being able to let go and let others help you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The key points from that. So,
yes.
Which I think we've covered.
Yes. Perfect. Cool. All right. So now, avatar number 2, mom who plans the greatest to-do list and doesn't know where to start. Or there's a mom that even commented, I don't even know how to start a to-do list. Like, there's just so much, it just becomes, it's in my head. And so let's talk about that. You know, the mom who has the greatest to-do list but doesn't know where to start. What can we do with that?
Yeah. So planning, I think, is something, it's so important, and it's something that I focus a lot on in my work with my clients, of just whatever you can plan and wherever you can plan and simplify, it just makes your life so much easier. So meal planning is a great example, and I think it's something we don't always remember to do, or we just think it takes more time. But when you have your meals planned for the next week, maybe even 2, you don't have to think about it anymore. It's done. That it's even if you, maybe even more, you can prep and ready what you can for the week, and you don't have to think about it. You could take it a step further and have 2 weeks of meals where you just rotate. You eat essentially the same thing for 2 weeks, and then you start over those 2 weeks. And that could be every Thursday is chicken, and so you could change what kind of chicken you eat or what the flavor is, but you're eating chicken every Thursday. You don't have to think about that. It's planned. Maybe every Friday night is pizza night or takeout. Whatever that looks like, simplify that. And then other things, so I'm a big fan of what's called meta decisions. And so these are larger decisions that you make that impact other things in your life. So for business or for home. So you're going to do certain work on certain days. So for me, maybe I do all of my marketing on Mondays, and I don't worry about it the rest of the week. It's done. I don't need to, if something comes up that's related to marketing, it goes on my Monday to-do list, and I just go from there. And maybe laundry is only done on certain days, and if something is dirty, unless it's a crisis and laundry must be done, it's just not going to get washed because it's not a certain laundry day. Some other just kind of simple ideas, let's see, like so being stuck, let's say you've got this grand to-do list and you're just not even sure where to start.
Yes.
I have so a couple of ideas. One would be to write out each task on a slip of paper and put it in a bowl, and then you're just going to draw out a task and you're going to do whatever that says. So I've had clients do this and it works for them. I had a day a few weeks ago where I was just not in the mood to do, I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. I had some personal projects, I wanted to do some things with the kids, and I had some work projects, and none of them really stood out of like, I must do this right now. So I put a bunch of notes in a bowl and pulled them out, and my kids got involved. They kept wanting to pick my next task, and they were super excited about it. And it took the choice away from me. It was, the bowl said I have to do this. And so there's that idea. One of my favorite time management gurus is Julie Morgenstern, and she talks about, again, Post-it notes, where you write a task on each Post-it note. And so this is for when you're planning your day, but you don't like the scheduled, like I'm going to do this task at this time. You look at your Post-it notes and you look at how much time you have. So you have 30 minutes before your next client, and you have something on there that will take you about 20 minutes, then you're going to pull that note off and you're going to work on that task. So it kind of spices things up a little bit, if you will.
So for some, I've tried to use Post-it notes, and I've used blank sheets of paper. I've stapled scrap sheets of paper together, and before I know it, I just ignore. Or it gets lost. You know, I wonder if there's other moms out there like that, and what are some other options if it's like Post-it notes don't work?
Absolutely. So one thing for that is figuring out whether you're a digital person. Maybe you just want everything documented in a digital calendar, in a Word document, an Evernote, and something digital versus a paper calendar. And then if you're a paper person, having like a physical inbox for all of that stuff to land, so that it all ends up in one place, one notebook, one spot, and so you can sit down and collect that. And I think going back to the really long list of to-dos, I think can be super overwhelming. So you look at your list of 20 things and you're like, yeah, I don't have the energy or the bandwidth to do this today. So maybe you're just pulling out, I recommend pulling out your top 3 to 5 priorities. And that's all you're going to focus on every day. And then you're really going to and we could probably spend a whole show just talking about this topic. But really just keeping like, what are the 3 to 5 things that I need to do today? Because you know other things are going to come up. I spend a good chunk of my day chasing my kids around, getting them to do their schoolwork, getting them to clean up their toys. Maybe it's bath time, maybe it's whatever it is. Things come up, and I'm sure even in your practice, things crop up. Like, you can't plan your day from beginning to end without any breathing room. It could be traffic on the way from one place to another is going to slow you down. And so you need room in your day for things to come up. And so just knowing what those priorities are is key, I think. Yeah, as for the losing Post-it notes and some of that, again, we could, there are so many ways. I mean, I think the biggest ones are just having a central location for those. So that they hopefully don't get lost.
Something to do is just find, I think, I would imagine, like, finding a notebook. I used to remember shopping for journals, and I would get excited if it's a brand new journal because it looks pretty and there's a pretty color to it and everything. So finding something that you get excited about opening and seeing, or even if you're drawn to a certain way of how the organizers kind of having you list down your tasks and everything. I used to shop shop schedulers just based on that too, and I would look for a specific type of style because I knew that style worked. And it takes time, I think, to find that right format. But when you find that right format, it doesn't hurt to stick with it. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You just got to play with it and see what works for you. And I have found that pulling out. So my planner has just the day. So I sit down and I write out my schedule for the day, my tasks for the day. There's a space for notes, and so then I don't look at anything else. Like, that is just what I'm focused on. And things might come up. I might need to add things to tomorrow's to-do list, but I'm focused on just today and not a massive overall to-do list, because then you just want to run away. It's too much sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I really love the fact that you pointed out, leaving time to give yourself grace, leaving time for the traffic, leaving time for things where you just actually may need the breather without realizing it. Because I try to plan my day the night before or really early in the morning, and as I'm thinking through, like, I can be like, oh, I got everything just back to back, boom, 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 and then as the day progresses, it's like, I don't got everything. I'm so tired. So I'm learning to definitely schedule that breathing space that you were mentioning about is really key. And the priorities are huge. And I think one thing about achieving even three things for the day, I find is even celebrating. I feel like is necessary just to, like, I have a goal to drink 2 big bottles of water, and if I don't get to it by the end of the day, and I have I've only gotten half a bottle or something, I get so busy, I think to myself, if I can finish the rest of this bottle in the next 2 hours, I win.
I think that's great. You've got to reward yourself. And you could also do like an end of the day, a done list. So these are all the things I accomplished today. Because I think, especially as moms, we focus so much on, I didn't get this done, I didn't get that done, and you sit down and think about what you did. And especially these days, I think giving yourselves that grace that if everybody is alive and happy at the end of the day, alive and fed. Some days happy is like a goal to have that we just miss. If we're all okay at the end of the day and somebody had a meal, let's call it a win. And try again tomorrow. And I being able to write down at the end of the day, these are all the things. And like, don't dismiss that you fed your family and you cleaned up dishes and you did this, and not just the big things. Like, celebrate all of them. Like, drinking water is absolutely celebrate that. And
that ties into our next mom avatar, self-care, but absolutely. But definitely, absolutely,
we're getting ahead of ourselves.
We're excited. It all ties in, right? This avatar, but it's true, and I love the idea of being able to focus on what we did, just like what we're grateful for. So absolutely. The other aspect of mom who plans the greatest to-do list is our greatest nemesis is procrastination. So I definitely have times where it's just like, well, that's not due for another 3 days. I can wait. And then before I know it, it's just like, why did I wait? Oh my goodness. So why do we procrastinate? What is procrastination really a barrier coming from? What do you think?
That is funny. That's actually, I think all of my Facebook and Instagram posts this month focus on procrastination. That is a theme that we are covering in a virtual community I have. It's all, we're looking at procrastination.
Yeah.
There's so many things, and this is something else I think we could have a whole show on.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is the overwhelm. It's maybe we have a project and we have no idea what the next steps are. We've just written down like plan, event, whatever, something generic, very high level, or it's the end goal, but we have no idea what that means.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sitting down and looking at all the step-ups that are required to get there, and then backing that up so you know, so you have an event in November, and you're going to back up from that date all the things that you need to do between now and then. And so today it might just be outline presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's all you need to do. Sit down, set a timer, half an hour, outline a presentation. Call it good. Move on, or you can just go do something else.
Mm-hmm.
I also think just getting started can be the hardest part. Just that initial, I don't want to do it, and just telling yourself, all right, I'm going to sit down, set a timer, 20 minutes. Just going to do this for 20 minutes, and when that timer goes off, I can stop, or I can keep going. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's a reward for you at the end of that. You're going to go have a cup of tea. You're going to go take a walk.
Yeah. You're
going to go eat a piece of chocolate, whatever it might be. We'll go with healthy rewards here. Mm-hmm. Just give yourself that break. And find a little bit of motivation. I think those are the big ones. Again, something we could talk forever about. And just figuring out what it is you're procrastinating on. Is it everything, or is it certain things? And they're just things that you just don't want to do,
mm-hmm.
And why.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the why behind that, and then is it something you have to do, or is it something you can delegate and somebody else can take care of?
Yeah.
Or does it just be skipped altogether? Does it have to be done at all?
Yeah, absolutely. You're hitting on a big point in terms of what really helps. I find that I procrastinate when my reason behind it, or my drive or motivation behind it, isn't clear, and then when I am procrastinating, then it's having to ask myself, well, what am I associating that I'm fearing or I'm not comfortable with that I'm putting this off? And it's important to ask that question, because then you can kind of get real with yourself and say, well, is it really all that bad? And then start to maybe find some strategies to overcome that over time. And then, celebrating is a big thing too. It's just, the little reward. Chocolate is definitely a good thing, right? Just being able to, so I can definitely resonate. And what really helped for me was also writing a story out of my vision for each focus area. So that's what one of my coaches had me do, is just to write a story out, and like what I see myself doing a year from now, and then creating specific goals, and then the tasks that work towards those goals make a big can affect can be reflective of what's on a to-do list, so that we have priority. There's purpose behind it versus just I'm just doing this for the sake of doing it. How can you give our listeners perhaps a way that sometimes I think there's a lot of parents right now too, a lot of people that may feel lost during this time. Maybe there's a sense of purposeless, and is it okay to not necessarily know what we want right now? And if we do want to find something, what are some ways we can start to create some intention to make our to-do lists more purposeful?
Absolutely, those are great questions. I absolutely think it's okay to be feeling a little directionless or unsure of our next steps right now. Everything is so uncertain.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that we're trying to figure out and keep track of, and nobody really knows if it's the right answer. And so definitely it's hard. I like to, one of the things I do often is ask myself, and this is for procrastination and just if I'm not quite sure, is what is my future self going to thank me for? So things like exercising. I don't love to exercise, but I know I feel better when I do it. And so my future self is going to be happy that I worked out today. So looking at some of that. And then I think for those who are feeling just kind of stuck and unsure, one, just sitting with that and being okay with that. That might just be where you are for a while, and that's okay. Knowing that we're not going to be in this pandemic forever, and hopefully, right? And then thinking about what are some things, where do I want to be in the next few years? What are some things I want, you spend some time dreaming. What are your dreams? Where do you want your career to go? Where do you want what do you want your family to look like and to be doing in the next few years? And what are some things you can be doing now? So things like my family, we would love to live in a Spanish-speaking country we've talked about maybe a summer. So we're taking Spanish right now. Not every day, we're working on a Spanish app, and it's 5 minutes a day. And sometimes we can't even manage that every day, and mostly because we forget about it. But it's just one of the things of like, we're home, let's do this. Like, we want to do this down the road. Why not focus on it now? And so I think just taking some time to dream, and then what are some steps you can take now to get there, and making them as doable as possible. So 5 minutes a day of Spanish is possible right now, but it might not be moving to a country or taking classes or whatever that looks like. So coming up with something that's doable, I think, would be where I would start.
I think that's great, and I think what I like to add too, we get so used to saying things of, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want to feel like I'm overwhelmed. It's easy to focus on what we don't want versus what we want. And when you talk about dreams, it's just like, so, I've talked to so many clients where their thoughts are, I don't even know what I want anymore. I don't, or they, I don't know what my dreams are like, or everything's okay right now. and yet there's this sense of loss. And so one thing that I personally, my coach had us do this year too, is to write down a list of everything that we ever wanted. Like when cost is not a concern, when time is not a concern, and just writing. And I noticed that initially when writing everything I ever wanted was just so hard, because we get so focused on just
so focused,
yeah, and so it's just tapping into that creative aspect of even just making a list of what you truly want. So if you're like that little kid who's making that Christmas list, and then actually believing that it's possible, and like you're saying, it is possible to spend the summer in a Spanish-speaking country and being able to enjoy and like actually seeing that. And then when you start to break down the possibilities of what it takes to do that, like you're doing, like with the 5 minutes of Spanish every day, it's like, well, why not? Why wouldn't it happen? Of course it's going to happen. So I think you make some great points there. Absolutely. Awesome. So very cool. And so the next thing, that we have is the avatar of the mom who can't even fit in self-care. Like, it's so easy to put others first, our kids first, and then there's this mom guilt, perhaps even, that creeps up if we were to do anything outside, if we were to do anything for ourselves. So, is that normal? Or, I think the obvious answer is yes. So, how do we start to overcome this mom guilt that shows up when we put time for ourselves? And why do we feel mom guilt? Why do you think that happens?
I think society has led us to believe that we are here to, our sole purpose is to entertain and take care of our kids. Society has just fed us this belief that is what we should be doing, that we as separate people outside of our kids don't exist, and that our goal is to take care of our kids. And I totally disagree with that. And I think it is important, one, to model the self-care, and I struggle with self-care as a term. Like, I don't know even really what that means. It just feels like this overused term these days.
Yeah.
But I also, on the flip side, I think it's very important that we're taking care of ourselves. And I think it's important for our kids, one, to see that, and two, to entertain themselves and be bored for a while, and to just figure out what they're doing on their own. And they say that they're bored, and suddenly we feel like we have to find them an activity. And I have read that when kids claim that they're bored, that they're really just feeling disconnected from you, and to just sit down and lay on the floor with them and be bored together for a few minutes, and that eventually they will get up and go figure out what to do on their own. But I think it's important to let kids entertain themselves. And I'm not saying you start that today, they're gonna turn around and figure that out by tomorrow. It's gonna take a few weeks of working on that and modeling our own self-care. So I exercise, I do a workout video most days of the week. Sometimes when my kids are in live classes, sometimes they're watching me, sometimes they join me. And I think it's important that they see that. They see that this is important to mom, and they're getting that example. And I grew up watching my parents exercise in high school. I think I went to workout classes with my mom, and so I had that example. My parents have always done things for themselves, and so it wasn't always about me and my brother. It was they were doing their own things. And I think we as adults, or we as moms, need to do that. And that our kids are going to be just fine. They don't need to be doing everything. And the taking care of yourself, the taking breaks, the getting sleep, the exercising, the even just hiding in your bedroom for 20 minutes for peace and quiet, you're gonna come back and be a better mom because you've had that break. And so you're gonna be more productive. You're gonna get more done because you're feeling rested and ready to go versus just at the end of your rope and fried. And so I think that the taking care of ourselves, we need to just learn to let go of that guilt. And it might be that first we just spend 10 minutes focused on our kids, just pouring love into them, playing a game, chasing them around the house so they get that connection. And then we're going to go do whatever it is that we need to do. But I think just focusing on letting go of that and knowing that when we take care of ourselves, we're modeling that behavior for our kids, and that it's important for that. And that's
So what do you think is outside of self-care, since you mentioned self-care so used heavily and what that truly is, is there a term that you would prefer using? And when we talk about self-care, then what do you think it is for moms that can really start to bring into their lives?
Yeah, I think maybe I've struggled with the word because I don't really know what that means to me in terms of what is self-care. Like, I'm not a massage person. It's just, I don't really know, just sitting on the couch reading a book count as self-care. And to me, it does, because that's something I enjoy doing. So I don't know if I have another term for it. I think it's being able to define what that is. And I think as moms, it's easy to forget. Similar to the forgetting what kind of dreams we have for our lives, I forget what it is to do to take care of myself. What did I used to like to do before I had kids?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Right. I think that's a big
I
thing.
remember.
It's actually asking yourself, like, maybe it's cultivating our individuality as self-care, perhaps, cultivating. So self-care, immediately we think about, and I think you point out it's what is self-care, right? We immediately think about pampering, getting a massage, getting hot stone, and all sorts of different things. However, I know that after, when we put so much energy into everything else, it's just like, what does Lynn like, what does Lynn love to do on her own? And so you bringing that up makes me think that it must mean self-care is about being able to cultivate our individuality and still love ourselves. Like, today, for our audience who's just listening, I'm wearing red lipstick. So, like, it's just, and since when can a mom not wear red lipstick? So it's just, something different of like, how's it going to help me set set myself, feel like I'm setting myself apart for me. And and I think just maybe even taking a workshop or doing a hobby or doing something that you don't think you would you've wanted to, but you haven't had a chance to, maybe taking a class on. We have so many virtual options now too, and I think that's I think that's powerful. So self-care can be something about helping you understand yourself more, I think, which is great.
I love that. I love that as a definition of just finding what is it you want to be doing. Who are you outside of mom?
Yeah.
What are those other roles and what makes you happy outside of that? And being able to do that. And I think I struggled with that because to me self-care is going to get a manicure or pedicure or massage or something, and that's just not who I am. So does that mean that I'm not caring for myself because I'm not doing this? Or is it really, for me, I'd rather binge watch Netflix for a little bit and go to bed early because I'm tired and I prioritize sleep. And so maybe for me, that's part of that self-care. And then also, like you were saying, of just figuring out what are some hobbies you want to do outside of your family that are just for you, just solely for you.
Yeah. And if you're an active mom out there, maybe it's scheduling a hike, just letting your husband know, because we love to do family hikes and stuff like that, but it's okay to do your own thing. Do an activity that you love on your own. Your family will survive.
They will. You might not think that, but I promise they'll be okay.
They will. They'll be just fine, and they will appreciate you, be excited to see you when you come back. So
yes.
And so there's moms that are like, I try to do things for myself, and I know we have a couple minutes, but maybe you can comment on this a little bit more. It's just like, how do you handle interruptions? So what if you have this workout video but it gets interrupted? Like, what's the mindset behind that?
Oh, does it ever?
Yeah.
It's either my internet goes out or my kids need me.
Right.
Oh my gosh, let's see, in a couple of minutes, interruptions. Planning for them when you can. So like, let's say you're working from home or possibly even in your office.
Yeah.
Have times during the day that it's okay for your colleagues or your kids to interrupt you. Like, I am doing deep work for this time, or I have clients for these hours. This is the time that you can come ask me whatever question it is that you need. And trying to just put those boundaries in there. I've learned when my kids start school at 9 o'clock, I swear at 9:05, my 5-year-old is yelling for a snack. Like, you just ate breakfast and just sat down for school. And I'm working, so just get it yourself or wait. I've started making her sit down with the snack. She's like, I know you're going to be hungry. So it's the preparation part of that. So it's figuring out when you're being interrupted and doing your best to minimize that in terms of setting those boundaries. Mommy is in the middle of her workout. When I'm done, I will come help you with X. It might be my husband and I will trade off where like he's in charge of the kids this afternoon. So I'm not going to be interrupted. It's his job now to be interrupted for the afternoon. So trading off if you can. But I think setting those boundaries is the biggest one. And I know if we have more time, more ideas will come to me. But those are the big ones. It's just setting some boundaries and trying to figure out where they are, especially if it's food. Prepare some snacks that your kids can get into so that they're not coming to you all of the time for a snack. Having a basket of toys or something for little ones to play with so that you can focus. I'm going to go do some work. You're going to sit and play with these toys, and when mommy's done, I will come play with you.
Yeah.
Setting timers. So I'm going to go work for 30 minutes. When this timer goes off, I will come play with you for 20 minutes. Please do not interrupt me. And like I was watching a video of a class I'm taking this morning. My kids kept interrupting me, and I was like, when I'm done with this video, I'm all yours. But the more you interrupt me, the longer it's going to take before I can come sit and give you my attention.
Yeah. And
they eventually figured it out, and they were quiet and went in the other room, and I finished my video, and then I went and talked to them. So it's setting those expectations of I'm doing this, and when I'm done, I'm all yours.
Yeah.
But I need you to leave me alone so that I can get this done.
Yeah. I think it's important, absolutely, and even just being okay to have whoever and maybe is on the receiving end, like said my son coming in, and and just being okay with saying people will understand if you need to pause for a moment to interact with them. and have
Yeah.
the conversation, because you're a parent and
'Cause it happens.
It happens. So absolutely.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Wow, we have so much to talk about, and I know that we just like touched the surface of everything today.
Yeah.
But we had, this was fun for me, Valerie. So I'm really glad to have you on the show today. So thank you so much for your professional and personal inputs and strategies. I think it was awesome. So for those of our listeners who would love to connect with Valerie, you can find her on her website, homemostsimple.com, and I'll be sure to post it as well too in our comments section. And you can also follow her on her Facebook page as well as her Instagram, also the same name, Home Most Simple. And also we're actually going to collaborate. I'll be hosting, and Valerie is really going to be leading an upcoming event online. It's going to be through Zoom on November 11th. And it's Stride into Better Health and Productivity. There's a Facebook link that I will be posting. It will be on a Wednesday at 7 p.m. And it's a fun, interactive workshop for you to really start to figure out how to time manage, do some time management exercise, right? To be able to put in health and self-care. And so, Valerie, any last words before we wrap up?
This has been fun. Thank you for having me. I feel like we could have so many more shows.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
So many things we could continue to talk about.
Valerie will be back on again.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. Awesome.
This has been great.
Great. And so wrapping up, the question for you is, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Have a beautiful Friday. Oh, and Valerie, did you want to say something or before?
Oh.
No?
Nope, I was just gonna thank you for having me. No, it's great.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great Friday and great weekend. Take care.